Hello and welcome to Sneaky Stories, home of short stories you can sneak into your day. Get ready to go on an adventure with some of the Sneaky Universe characters. Today we have a story from the Monicow series. My name is Pauline and I'm your storyteller, and I can't wait to share today's story with you. Remember, there aren't any pictures, so you'll need to imagine them. You can imagine the pictures any way you like.
The Crown Jewel Heist.
It was a warm summer's day, but there was a slight breeze taking the edge off the heat. Monicow, Bovine Superhero to the stars and anyone needing rescue, was sprawled out on the perfectly manicured lawns at the local golf course, watching the white fluffy clouds changing shape as they shifted in and out of her view. The chirping of the birds reminded Monicow of the time she rescued an entire passenger train. The driver pulled the whistle several times in delight after they realized that they had all been rescued, trilling like a sparrow welcoming the first spring blossoms. The train had been travelling from one side of the country to the other and was just approaching the largest lake in the land, Lake Gigantor. Lake Gigantor was rumoured to be home to the mythical giant squid lovingly nicknamed Gigi by the local people. Gigi was no myth to the locals, who regularly left gifts such as beautiful bunches of flowers, ornate statues and magnificent paintings for the creature to decorate its home and make sure she never surfaced to help herself to parts of the village to use as decorations. Gigi had often been witnessed poking a tentacle through the surface of the lake, pulling the gifts under, and had been known to pull things under the water if they were close enough to the lake. This was why it was so fortunate that Monicow had been around as the train approached the broken bridge. If the train got close enough to the lake, Gigi might think the townsfolk had left her a model train to decorate her living room. Monicow's mission that day was to carry the train across the broken portion of the bridge high enough so that Gigi wouldn't think it was for her. It was lucky that Monicow had super bovine strength thanks to her regular workouts at the gym. Just before it was time, Monicow activated her hover hooves and zoomed up to meet the train as it approached the broken bridge. She had been in communication with the train driver through her handy cow phone, which came out of her utility bell. The plan was to help the train without alerting passengers so as not to cause any unnecessary panic. Monicow positioned herself beneath the broken bridge, ready to balance the center carriage on her head, and lifted her front hooves into her third favorite yoga position, the goddess, to balance the other carriages and glide them along safely across to the other side of the bridge. Of course, her top two positions were cow and cowface. Just as planned, the passengers didn't even notice. The driver blew his whistle to thank her as they sped off into the distance on their way to their destination. Monicow floated back down to the centre of the village and offered to mend the bridge so that trains could cross without trouble in the future. The townsfolk happily obliged. They wanted to help by bringing the building materials closer to the lake, but were worried Gigi would think they were there for her to build some abstract art, so they just showed Monicow where the materials were stored, and she helped herself as needed until the job was done. Then, like all superheroes, she graciously accepted thanks and flew off to the next situation requiring her services. Monicow was just drifting into a doze when an errant ball landed right next to her ear. It landed with a small thud, startling Monicow out of her sleepy state. She looked around. There were no golfers. Where had the golf ball come from? She had chosen this green because it was part of the 18th hole, so she wasn't expecting any people anytime soon. Monicow picked up the golf ball and stood up, tossing it between her front paws as she made a full sweep of the space. Then she looked up. In the distance she could see another golf ball falling from the sky. She had to quickly duck out of its way as the ball approached, heading straight for her face. It was like she was the target. But who would want to harm her? She was a superhero. She helped anyone who needed it. A third golf ball plonked down to her left, and another landed to her right. Was she the target? That couldn't be possible. No one knew she had decided to relax at the 18th hole, and it was much too early for any golfers to be at the last hole. Plonk. Someone else simply had had the same idea and was out here taking advantage of the deserted green. Plonk. But where were the balls coming from? Plonk. Monicow activated her hover hooves and slowly lifted off the ground. She rose up, spinning slowly so she could survey the area. Whoosh! A ball zipped past her ear, but this time she saw the direction from which it came. Monicow zoomed to the east. From a distance she could see a large contraption rattling as it heaved out golf balls from a tube-shaped opening. It was shooting balls at a rate of about 2 per minute, Monicow noted, measuring the time using her utility bell, which also functioned as a pendulum if she was still. It swung from side to side every quarter of a second, and with her supersensory powers, Monicow could easily mark time. "Who's that?" Monicow thought, spying someone near the golf ball belching apparatus. "And what are they doing?" She glided a little closer, but concealed herself behind a fluffy white cloud. Someone was filling the machine with hundreds of golf balls. "Now what are they doing?" she thought. The figure was playing with the dials, and then golf balls were being pumped out at 24 per minute. That was one every 5 seconds, considerably faster than before. Monicow decided she needed more information, and to also get away from the incoming barrage of golf balls. She zoomed down to land behind a tree and switched on her supersonic hearing device. Now she could see and hear what was going on in the distance. Aiming in the direction of the machine and its operator, she heard part of a conversation. The operator was on a walkie-talkie, speaking very quickly to what appeared to be their boss. "Yes, sir. Right away, sir. It is working exactly as discussed, Your Excellency." "Your Excellency?" There's only one person Monicow knew who liked to be called His Excellency. King Maximus of Maxiland, where everything is supersized and the king was always scheming new ways to either expand his kingdom or increase his wealth. Monicow knew she had to find out what his new plan was, so she could thwart it, just like she had many other times in the past. Monicow edged closer. "Everything is in place, our source says. The crown jewels will be on display in the town square as scheduled. We should be able to follow our plan to swap the replica jewels for the real ones without a problem. As discussed, the best time to make the exchange will be while the jewels are being transported from the vault to the town square. Precisely at the moment they are being unloaded in the town square in the early morning, there will only be a driver and a single guard, and no one out on the streets. People are predictably sleeping at 4 a.m. Monicow continued listening, but could not hear the response given by King Maximus on the other side of the receiver. It didn't matter, though. King Maximus was probably just agreeing profusely with his cunning smile and rubbing his hands together in glee. He thought he had the perfect plan, but of course this was not the case. Monicow knew instantly how to stop him, but first she had to check a few details. Activating her silent roller hooves, she skated away as quiet as a shadow and made her way to the town square. Although she was indeed very familiar with every inch of the town, one could never have too much information. There was of course the centre stage where the crown jewels would be displayed, and the circle of gold bollards to hold up the regal red barrier rope that would keep people from getting too close. One side of the stage had a sitting area so people could sit and enjoy the view of the jewels for a while if they so desired. Monicow noted the 4 large speakers carefully placed to ensure maximum volume so that announcements could be heard clearly throughout the whole town. It was exactly as she remembered. Her plan to thwart King Maximus could be seamlessly executed. Monicow took one last look at the poster to confirm when the jewels would be on display. The following morning. It was time to get her plan underway. Monicow checked the time. It was 3:45 a.m. Everything was in place. She had positioned a box at each corner of the town square filled with special brightly coloured leg warmers, armbands and sweatbands that would light up once activated by movement. She had also arranged for the street lights to start glowing much more brightly and to flash so that every corner of the town square would be lit up like a Christmas tree. In precisely 12 minutes, the speakers would start to blast out pop music and a flash mob of dancers would make their way into the town square, grooving to the sound of the beat, picking up the glowing exercise gear and populating the town square with hundreds of witnesses. Meanwhile, King Maximus was watching the crown jewels via satellite link. An illegal satellite he had launched into the sky years before Monicow was a superhero. He mostly used it to broadcast his own TV channel into the homes of the citizens of Maxiland, and every 4 years to watch the synchronized swimming during the Olympics, so Monicow hadn't bothered to remove it. His eyes glued to the screen, King Maximus was observing his team as they moved through the town, edging closer towards the town square. As he was just about to give the order to his henchmen to make the swap, the town square lights started lighting up and illuminated the whole town. The town square itself was especially bright. If you didn't know otherwise, you'd have thought it was the middle of a summer's day. A second later, the speakers roared out the opening whoa 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 of the classic song Kung Fu Fighting, one of Monicow's favourites. The perfect tune for rousing anyone into action, especially against villains. The square was soon filled with glowing dancers moving in unison to the beat led by Monicow, an accomplished dancer thanks to her stint on Dancing with the Stars a year earlier, where she'd taken out the trophy. King Maximus' men didn't know what else to do, so they picked up a sweatband, leg and arm warmers, and joined the flash mob. Monicow could hear King Maximus cursing through the now discarded headsets of the henchmen. She smiled to herself. Monicow, Bovine Superhero to the Stars and anyone else needing rescue, had done it again. She had foiled another of King Maximus's plans, but she was sure that she would hear from him again soon as he continued his efforts to expand his empire. For now, though, she could just enjoy the dance party. If you would like a free Sneaky Universe colouring and activity book, visit www.sneakyuniverse.com/Sneaky Stories Podcast. Sneaky Stories is a Sneaky Universe production. Written, hosted and edited by Pauline. The music is by Trailer Works. If you would like more stories, visit www.sneakyuniverse.com.